Good morning, friends. This is Pastor Jim again on this beautiful day. I am sitting on my sun porch and looking out over our backyard, and the grass has gotten very nice and green and lush. And we have a lot of activity around here from squirrels. We live in the woods, and because of that, we see lots of squirrels. I mean, they're everywhere. They really love our seed box for our birds. They'll rake all the seeds out and eat them off the ground, and consequently, the birds don't get a chance to get into them and see what's going on. But we try to take care of all of our friends. We have some hummingbirds that come by, and we get some finches and some things like that. More birds this year than we have in the past, which is, I think, maybe indicative of the less activity that seems to be going on around us, and things seems to be fresher, and maybe that's one of the benefits of the consequences of being sheltering in place, I suspect, right now. But we are delighted that we have the opportunities to come to you like this on this daily devotional. And I know Pastor David and I are trying to reach out to you, and we hope that these are beneficial to you, and that they move your hearts in ways that will help you get through another day. Later this day, I plan on being down in Coldwater by the park, where they're going to be doing a distribution with face masks. The Grand Lake United Methodist Church and a group hashtag for change is making a distribution of face masks. They're free. You just come by and you can pick them up. It's been a real good program. So I'll be down there around noon today. Just would like to tell you today that I've been thinking a lot about the places where God has placed us, Pam and I, and we've gone about our ministry over the years. We started years ago. It's been 15 years ago now, up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Up there, I had my first quarter-time appointment in a church that was located in not downtown Grand Rapids, but pretty near downtown Grand Rapids. So we had a very small congregation there of folks that had been there for many years. So it was a good appointment for me, and made me realize that that God was calling me to larger things. As I recall, my decision to go full time in pastoral ministry came when one afternoon I was sitting on my deck and having a cup of tea and reading a book. The book was called The Clearing Season, and it was about making space for God. I'd been working probably 12 months by then as a quarter-time pastor. I've been serving that little church that I was serving, and well, in the same time I was doing that, being what we call bivocational, I was working a full-time job managing a drugstore, and so that took about 60 hours a week to do the work I had to do for the drugstore, and then I was doing the part-time work as a pastor, and I soon got to realize that my heart was drawn more into being a part of the church more on a full-time basis than trying to be split between two places. So I went into full-time ministry that next year after being at that small church for slightly over a year, and we were moved to Benton Harbor, Michigan, which is right near Lake Michigan, on that southern, almost on the southern tip of Lake Michigan. And we lived there for 3.5 years. And after 3.5 years there, some things developed that said that we needed to move on. The one church that I was serving, one of the churches, I should say, because I had a 2-point charge there. One of the churches that I was serving was financially strapped, and it came a time where they said, well, we can no longer afford you in your full-time capacity, and it was decided that I needed to petition for a change. And then I spent the next 8 years over in Three Rivers, Michigan, and we were at the 9th Street United Methodist Church in Three Rivers, and for 6 years along with 9th Street we were at Pleasant Valley, which was about 16 miles away from there, and we were split 50-50 between those two churches. And then after 6 years, the decision was made to make the yoking that we had, or the second point of our 2-point charge, closer for us. So we were moved to, we were asked to take the Three Rivers First United Methodist Church and stay with Three Rivers 9th Street. A lot of folks used to ask me, well, why do you have two churches that are both United Methodist churches and have always been Methodist churches from their beginning, that are only a mile and 2/10 apart? Seems kind of, strange that we would have churches that close together. But when those churches were founded, Three Rivers gets its name from the fact that there are three rivers that convalesce together in the town. So during times of flood season, there was no way to get from one church to the other, or one community, even though they were very close, because the flood would pretty much keep people on the other side of the river. And there were no bridges that were high enough to miss that until later, when they made some changes, and actually they rerouted one of the rivers a little bit, and that kind of eliminated some of the issues that they had with that. So they continued on. Both of the churches were over 150 years old, and while we served there, we had a wonderful ministry that we were able to do with some help for the local food site, and for a community kitchen that served meals twice a week. And then we also were part of a homeless resource there. We had a program that was a group of ecumenical pastors, about 20 of us in the county there, that got together, and we were called the Covered Bridge Community, and we helped to give people a chance not to have to be placed into a homeless shelter, by giving them a hand up, if you will, and help supporting them in some things that they needed. So that brings me today to the scripture that I wanted to share with you. I've always been fond of Jeremiah's writing, and one of the things I always really liked, the writings that he gave to the Israelites who were in exile in Babylon. And he writes to them, and encouraging them and reminding them of what God has in plan for them. In chapter 29 of Jeremiah's writings, I should say, I'm really fond of verses 11 through 13. And I'll read a little bit farther on this morning with this. So listen to these words. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper and to give you hope and a future. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with your heart. Jeremiah was writing to a people who were struggling with the aspect of being in exile. As we are sheltering in place these days as we are trying to become better at taking care of our time and so on. I just want to remind you that God has plans for us, plans to prosper us, plans for us to grow and become fulfilled in what He has planned for us to do. And I would just like to say to us this morning, as I have sat with you and given you the opportunity to perhaps listen to my wanderings as I go through this day, I would ask that you would remember, seek God. Seek God in your heart. And I know that you will find God there, and you will prosper. May you have a blessed day, and may God surround you with His love and grace. Thank you so much for listening.